KCJJ, it is now time for Rex Brandstatter Senior Talk, brought to you by Senior Benefits and the Sullen American Legion.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. This is Rex Brandstatter, and it is time for Senior Talk. Well, you bet, what a wonderful day. Well, stop right there. It's not a wonderful day. I guess it's a wonderful day if you're on planet Earth, but how much fun can you have with 1 inch of snow? Man, it came down like a blizzard earlier this morning. It was a whiteout there right in front of my office, and now the sun is out. Go figure. I guess that's Iowa. What do you know? Well, folks, it is darn cold out there. If you haven't ventured out, I would question your sanity if you really are going to go somewhere. It's nasty out there, and with our luck, it's going to clear. It's clearing out now. It's going to get really cold and tonight and tomorrow. So sit by the fire, sleep close. Whatever you got to do, light the couch on fire. Whatever you do at your house, and this might be a good night just to stay home or do whatever you need to do as well. Thank you for joining me on Senior Talk, the weekly radio program where we try to talk about things like retirement and health and income and financial issues and expenses and family living arrangements and more. And I have to tell you, it's not easy being a senior because we have all these things and more on our mind. And of course, retirement and health, and that's in no order of how important our health is. Of course, number one, we're going to talk about that for sure today, and we'll work on all of these as we go, as many of them as we can today. You might hear something that can help you or maybe a member of your family or friend. I'll do my best to bring a range of information every week. So 1 week we'll talk about this, and the next week that, and we'll do everything I can to kind of stir you to action to get yourself in a better position as far as maybe living arrangements you're having. Maybe your house is too big. Most likely it's not too small. Too big, maybe some things that you haven't done that you should be doing, like get a will and a power of attorney and, things like that. We'll talk about those things. Got a lot of things coming up. And we'll talk a lot of senior stuff. We'll talk some past people, some places and events, and that's kind of the fun stuff. As things that we seniors do best, remember things, a long time ago, but you can't remember what you had for lunch yesterday. Well, that's part of the deal. So grab yourself a sandwich and a nice cold root beer, and let's see what we can cook up today. My name is Rex Brandstatter. I'm 75 years old, and I've been a licensed Iowa real estate broker since 1974. And if you do some quick back row math, like I did at every math class in high school and college, back row, baby, that was me. I didn't want to get called on for sure. And since then, in the last 10 and 15 years, I work mainly with seniors and senior families. I work with estates. I work with the administrators of estates. I work with executives of estates. About trust departments of banks call me. That's kind of what I do. Attorneys call me, CPAs call me when they're dealing with their senior clients on certain things that relate to real estate. So if you need anything like that, give me a call. I have a senior line for you to call, 319-330-5534, 330-5534, and I'm doing my best not to cough and hack today. I've been like everybody else, and I'm telling you, folks, like everybody else, kind of got the hacks and the sneezes and the cough and stuff like that. My wife threatened to have me thrown out the other day, well, many times, but no, really, in the last couple of days because I've been a coughing and a hacking and no sneezing, but she's tired of it. And now she hasn't been out of the house for the last 2 days because she's got it, and I just got a call a minute ago that one of my friends, he was going to go to the women's game tonight. He's not going to go because he's got we call it the Corville crud out our end of town out there. So that's what's going on. I think it's everywhere. So I have to tell you that it sure is more comfortable and fun when the temperature is at least above 32. That's always been my thing. It gets below 32, things freeze up. That's kind of a game changer. So and this is only a taste of what's on the way, for gosh sake. Yeah. Well, just a quick reminder for you, a little calendar work here, is that 2 weeks from today is Christmas Day. 2 weeks from today is Christmas Day, so if you're going to order me that big gift, you might want to get downtown. Don't go out today or tomorrow. Order me that big gift. Go ahead. I never turn that down, of course, but I won't wait by the mailbox either, for sure. And 3 weeks from today is New Year's Day. 3 weeks from today is New Year's Day. So 2 weeks from today, there will be no Senior Talk on Christmas Day and no Senior Talk on New Year's Day. So what this means is next week will be the last program, Senior Talk, for 2024, and I've got some new and exciting things I'm working on for the first Wednesday in 2025. And in between their Christmas and when I get back, there'll be lots of football games and see friends and do things that you can do. And I've got a couple things that I want you to consider doing. Over this Christmas, between now and Christmas, between now and the first of the year, maybe you're going to have some guests in town or you absolutely don't know what to do, but you'd like to do something. I really honestly think that if you haven't been to the 2 museums out in Coralville, you really should do that. I'll throw another museum in there, too. Let's do this. If you haven't been over to the Hoover Museum in West Branch recently, they're doing a lot of updating. They got a bunch of money from the federal government, of course, from the taxpayers, to do some updating. Well, that's not done. A lot of it isn't even started. But they've got some new programs over there and some new displays. It's a great place to go and spend an afternoon or a morning over there. It's only 10 miles away at West Branch. And then there's 2 museums in Coralville that I think they're right in the same building. They're right in the same, walk in one door and walk in the other one, right at the same place. And $10 get to see 2 museums, and that's the Johnson County Historical Society Museum and the Eastern Iowa Auto Museum, Antique Auto Museum. And they're in Coralville, right there on East 9th Street, which is where you go to watch hockey or anything at the arena. It's right in the side door there. It's right next to, right across the street from 30 Hop, or right across the street from the other places down there. Right next door to Iowa Athletic Club, and in the door there. And you just go in and take the elevator down one flight, or take the steps down. It's easy, and it's great museums, folks. So if you've got your brother-in-law coming to town and you don't know what to do, you got a couple of high school kids visiting or something like that, take them out there, and they'll have a good time for sure. And I don't know hours. I think they both might be closed on Mondays. But it's really, really a great place to go. And quite honestly, spend some time, but also spend some quality time looking at some things that maybe you have not seen, because they change those museums, add to them all the time. Great, great place. So why don't you go do that for sure. December, of course, is the last day of the year, and it's also the time when a lot of people retire. We're going to work to the end of the 2024. Number one, if that's you, congratulations to you. You've reached the point in your life where it's time to throw in the towel on this episode of your life. Turn the chapter, maybe work somewhere else. Maybe turn the chapter and go fishing. That's up to you. It's all up to you. That's the fun part. And that's also can be the scary part if you haven't prepared yourself financially and mentally for retirement, and you don't know if you really, really have prepared yourself until you're into it for a ways. And not that I know, because here I am 75 and I'm still, quote, working. At least I'm at my office every day. So my wife wants to know what I do there. And I said, well, I don't know, but I'm there. She said, well, that's the main thing. You're not, you're not bothering me here at the house. So that's the story. So congratulations to you for getting there. I don't care about your age. If you decided to retire, and you can handle it financially. And who knows how much money you'll need? I can't answer that question. Well, Rex, how much money do you need to retire? I don't know. Experts don't know. It kind of depends on your lifestyle. And my opinion, less than what you think. Less than what you think. Huh? Rex, everybody says more. Well, I'm not so sure about that. We'll talk about that sometime. We're going to talk about that. So you will be the one that knows if retirement is good for you, and you might not know the first 6 months, the first year. You might drift back into something. You might say, I've always wanted to become a fly fisherman and maybe do some of that research on making fly rods. A friend of mine did that, did some research, and he does make fly rods, and he's quite well known for it, and then, boy, they sell in a hurry. So maybe a new job in another field, maybe a hobby becomes a job. Maybe you've had a hobby for a long, long time. You're a woodworker or whatever you might do. Maybe if you're married, maybe you and your wife can become your partner on this thing. You can do it full time. Whatever it is, you might just discover some of these things when you're retired. So a thumbs up for you. Go to it. Absolutely. So that's kind of the story. And before we go any farther, I always need to thank veterans, and I thank each and every one of you, men and women, who serve this country in warrior military uniform and took time out of your life to defend our country. And my salute to each and every one of you. I would tell you that. A couple of years after my dad had passed away in 1994, my mom said, "There's a big box I want you guys to read, my brother and I to read." So we did. And there were couple hundred letters that he sent back from his, he was over in North Africa chasing Rommel around. General Rommel, and then up through France. So there were 200 letters, about 200 letters in there that we had never knew about, and she did because a lot of letters were to her and things like that. And she said now that he's gone, I didn't want to embarrass him by having you guys read the mushy stuff. Well, we didn't care about that. It's our mom and dad, for God's sake. So we read those. So, but in his letters, his Christmas letter, she said, well, I'm going to be again for Christmas again this year. He was gone for Christmas of 42, 43, 44, and got here about a week before Christmas of 45. So he was gone a long time. And in his letters, he would always say, it would be so good to get back home just to see everybody. I don't even care what I do or what I do for a long time when I get home. I just want to get home. And he says, I'm pretty convinced I won't ever get home because I don't think I'll make it home with all that's going on over here. But he did. And it's just kind of hard to read those letters. He's all concerned about what's going to happen over here and the war, and he misses everybody and doesn't get to go down to church services and stuff like that. He's a pretty down-to-earth guy on those things. So I always remember those this time of year when you think you're pretty sharp, and here he was over there at wartime, like thousands and millions of other guys were too, and women too. So interesting to read those. So. You know, so many fellow seniors remark to me that they say it to me, you know, Rex, getting old is a challenge. And I say, yeah, it is. And they always say, well, I've never, and maybe you do too, I've never had so many health problems all these years, but now I'm at the doctor all the time. And I hear this a lot. Now, I've got friends who, my age, maybe guys I hung around with or hang around with, are still to this day are good friends, and they just have health issues, and you just don't know. You honestly, gosh, don't know. Things. There's a lot of studies going on. We'll talk about that too. But a guy, fellow senior, told me recently, there's no gold in the golden years. And he says, well, I said, well, you know, it's different for each one of us. So do your best. That's all we can say. Some people are having a good go of it, and they're in pretty good condition. And then the next day, of course, you're not. Your leg hurts, and you go to the doctor, and you got a real problem. And other people just can't. They just can't get any luck at all as you get older. So it is what it is. We just have to deal with it the best we can, if that includes changing diets, changing living habits, changing whatever might be routines, medical this or that. We have to play the cards we're handed. Unfortunately, some of those cards aren't any good. Well, January, I'll give you a little heads up here. January, with your next Social Security check, ladies and gentlemen, will mark the start of a 2.8% increase in our Social Security check. Now, that is way below the rate of inflation, and if you just heard on the top of the hour news, inflation is running ahead of where they thought it was going to be. And they were considering lowering the Fed rate a quarter of a point, and I think they probably still will. But I'm not sure that this inflation is out of here. Been to the grocery store lately? Price of gas at the pump seems to be modifying a little bit. But remember, it's still $1.50 at a minimum more than it was just 3 or 4 years ago. So I can't see that that's a big saving. So anyhow, we're going to get a 2.8 increase. However, just when you got all excited about that, you take your if you're getting $1,000, 2.8, you're going to get another $28. If you're getting $2,000, you get 2%. You get about $50. You know, it's just nothing to write home about except this. It's in our favor, not the government's. However, the price of our coverage for Medicare is going up about $5. So actually, Medicare it's gonna go up about I think it's $1.40 a month or something like that. So it's not a huge, but it kind of temper part of that. So if you're going to get $20 increase, $25 increase, you're only going to get $21. We all know that's going to go up all the time. So, but it didn't go up very much. The best news ever out of all the political campaigns, the best news ever, besides the protection of our country, was the fact that, in my opinion, that would be the elimination of federal taxes on Social Security income. So your Social Security check would not be taxed. That would be a great. Now, they have to have what they call offset. So if they're going to give away that, quote, give back. How's that? Not give away, but give back that money to us. Where are they going to get it from somewhere else? Because truly, they've raided the Social Security. They say they haven't, but I beg to differ. But anyhow, that's just it. So, our Social Security started in the late 1930s as a voluntary program. They promised never to take much from your income. It was called Old Age Assistance Programs, and now look what they've done. So let's hope something happens, what I call with this money grab, and they do. And they won't be done the first year because they'll be fighting like dogs in Capitol Hill. But if they would even take 50% of the taxes away on the, so what a great kick in the increase in the family. That would be in a good way. That'd be great. In the coming year, we'll talk about this too. We can try to do a couple things. You can try to chart your income for the year in January, so you have an idea of where you're heading, and keep an eye on spending. That is right there. Keeping an eye on spending. That's a hoop-de-doo deal. My dad was always worried about hoop-de-doo, some big thing. Well, hoop-de-doo, they got a new car, something like that. Keeping an eye on spending, and that is a huge, huge thing. And one of the neatest ways to do this without spending the penny. Don't even have to spend a penny to track your spending. And here's what you can do. You could sit down with your checkbook. Now, at my house, I don't write checks. My wife does. So it will be she and I will be sitting down, which we do. We'll be sitting down, and we'll go through the checkbook. And, you'll write a check. You write where you spend it and where it was. And she reads them, and then I write down. We make categories like entertainment. We went somewhere. We got gas. And we have our credit card things there, too. We write checks to them. So we try to do our best to narrow this down. Grocery store, fun things you might have bought, clothing, which doesn't amount to much at our age anymore, I guess. But kind of get some departments there on your sheet. And pretty soon you're going to see where a lot of your checks go. Oh, I didn't know I wrote that many checks every month or in 6 months' time. Oh, insurance over here and property taxes. You'll kind of lay it out as where your money went because, we all work so hard to get our money, but how many of you know where it's going? Well, we just put everything on a charge card, and once a month we write a check. Well, that's fine, but where's it going? That's perfect. Not a way. That's a nice, clean way to do it. It's a streamlined way to do it. But where's it going? That's like saying to me, if I said, "Here's $4,000. You're going to make $4,000 a month," and I hand you a check at the end of the month for $3,200. So it's $800 out. Where did it go? If you don't know, you're not doing yourself really much of a favor. And if part of that money they keep out is for $150 to your retirement, did you know where it was going, what they invested it in? Well, they took $150 a month, what they invested in? A mutual fund. Okay, what mutual fund? So you have an eye on things like that, folks. I want you to kind of pay more attention to your money because, it doesn't come easy and it doesn't come in truckloads, I suppose. So do your very best to kind of keep an eye. And you can just start so easy at the kitchen table, sit down and go over. This is not warfare between you and your other. $32 for what at Shields? I don't know. I probably bought some rounds or something at Shields. I don't know. You never know. So take the time to do that. It all comes out in the wash. It's between friends. It's between you and your other, and it is what it is, folks. Do you know when your CD, if you have a couple of CDs or more, do you know when they mature? Do you have that on your reminder on your computer or on your phone or on your calendar on the wall? From when it's, I don't remember that the banks do seem to send something out, but what if the mail doesn't get there? What if you're on vacation, don't see it, and then it matures and it drops down to a low rate? It's happened to me. I mean, there's no question about that. So, do you need to buy a CD? If you got a whole bunch of money in your checking account and it's not paying you hardly anything, if anything, for sure, you transfer that over to a CD or into an investment, into some of your investment, whatever you do. So, I just want you to pay attention to the money that you have. How does that sound? Yes, all right. We all work long and hard for it, so keep up to it. Checking account status review, savings account review, read and review any investments you get in the mail. Like you get something from Benjamin Franklin. Listen to me. You get something from Franklin, Templeton Franklin group, and go read those things. Maybe there's some funds, mutual funds you want to get out of. Maybe you've got 3 on there and 2 of them are going gangbusters. One of them is pretty poopy. Get out of it. Transfer it over. Call the guy or the lady and do it. Take care of yourself. All right. Well, a senior couple explains to me we are both retired. We seem to have separate interests at this point. We are both enjoying even more our own particular activities. So he likes to fish, and she likes to crochet. I don't mean anybody do that anymore. Quilt. How's that sound? Or whatever that might be. Maybe sing at the church or something like it. Whatever it might be. We are both enjoying even more our own activities. We are actually happier these days as we seem to have some space. Wow! Retirement has allowed each one of them to get farther down the line on their maybe not just one hobby or one interest, maybe two or three, and they're not together as much, and there's some space in their marriage, we'll call it, and it's a healthy for all parties. I think that's wonderful. Good for them, for sure. Well, a senior lady called to tell me this. Our house seems to be cold all the time. Our furnace is older, but has always been okay. And I said, been okay. Have you had it checked up recently? Well, not for a couple of years. I said, well, then your furnace is not okay if your house is cold, for God's sakes. What are you thinking? Well, I know what she's thinking. She's thinking about the guy's going to tell her she needs a new furnace, and it's going to be $9,000. That's exactly what she's thinking. Folks, it doesn't have to be that. It could be it just doesn't. And unless you call someone, go look in the mirror and you'll see a dummy. Okay, you've got to call somebody to take care of these things. All right. So I said, get it checked out, for God's sakes. And I told her this story. I had a lady in a commercial property that I own, and she called me one day. She said, I've been there 6 or 7 years. I've always been going to tell you this. I just always forget. This place is just cold in the winter. We don't really get it. In the summer, it doesn't seem to cool that fast. So I said, well, why didn't you tell me all these things? You never say anything to me, and I don't really check on you. I take the rent and drive past the properties, make sure they look good on the outside, but I don't know these things about the inside. So I said, let me come up. So I went to this store that this lady had, and lo and behold, guess what? They had placed boxes and furniture on top of almost all of the heat and air conditioning registers in the floor. I said, come here and look at this. I said, there's a cardboard box sitting on top of a register. Oh. Look over here. I said, you've got a big piece of furniture with about a 2-inch gap down to the floor sitting on top of this register. I said, how do you expect the warm air or cool air to circulate? Well, I don't know. So her husband came in, and I said, I want you to tell you what I'm talking about here. So he took the tour to her, and he was kind of shocked. Now, after I moved those things, I said, don't ever put anything on top of those registers again, ever. And to this day, they don't have a problem. So they created their own problem. I wouldn't say they were couldn't have been the sharpest people in the world, for God's sakes. Who'd do that? Well, I want you to go look at maybe you've got the headboard of the bed is hanging over there. You've got some problems of your own. Why don't you take a look at things yourself? All right, why not? Well, if you have tenants, I want you to think about this. I don't have any apartments anymore. I got out of that business a long time ago. If you have tenants, make sure they do not turn the heat off when they leave town. This is a huge issue in Iowa City and Coralville. As students that are young and not too sharp on things, they do this all the time. All they think about is cutting off the heat will end the bill, cut off their heat bill, because they're not going to be here. Well, it'll cut it off all right, and you'll have pipes freeze up, and you'll have a mess. And I can give you some classic stories right here in Coralville and Iowa City of people who have done this. Just one unit. There's a building in Coralville. Just one unit did this. It froze up, and they turned the heat off, and they were gone for a month, and the people started seeing water drips here and there. And pretty soon they came back, and they shut it off. And it's about a 20-unit building, had to be totally redone with the mold and crack this and pipes. It was terrible. And the building was only 4 or 5 years old. Absolutely cost well over $1 million to fix it, because this doofus little student guy turned off the heat to his unit to save $32. Not good. So if you're an owner, a landlord, you go meet with them and say, do not turn it off, turn it back to 55, turn it back to, even if they turn it back, they cannot turn it down. In the lease it says they can't do that, but nobody reads the lease. They just want to know how much they have to pay. So folks, take care of your properties, meet with your tenants, go post something in the hallways, on the doors. Do not turn it off, turn it back to 52 or 55 is best. Please do that. You'll save yourself a ton of money. Well, the report says that people are happier after age 50. People are happier after age 50. Why would that be? Well, that might be the fact that the kids are grown and blew away. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe you got the house paid for. Maybe you got a couple cars paid for. Maybe you've got some money in the bank. Maybe you're just doing so well at the job, everything. You've got the lifestyle you want, the neighborhood you want. The kids are either there or in college or, like I say, dried up and blew away, got their own place. So people are happier after age 50. Now, I would say with a little bit, we're going to talk about some more stuff in just a minute about that report there. At age 65, life expectancy is about another 18.9 years, so we'll call that 20. So at age 65, life expectancy is about to 85. So, we've come a long way down the trail. If you're 65, you're coming a long way down the trail. Sure. Well, hey, how about this little update here? Have you been out on the Coralville Strip at night, which is anytime after 4:30, for God's sakes? And speaking of dark at about 4:30, on December 21, which is not that many days away, guess what happens? That sun is going to make a U-turn and head back our way. So that's my first thing we'll talk about. That's my first indication that the worm's going to turn. Now, if you're a meteorologist, they call January 15th the turning of the worm in the meteorological business. So, see, things start to turn on December 21. There you go. It takes a long time, and it's on the track here until June. So, at least you got it coming our way starting on December 21. Oh, well. We can all hang in there for sure. Speaking of all those lights on the Coralville Strip, I started to say, before I interrupted myself, which I do quite often, all those trees on the Coralville Strip, which says 4:30, they all had the tree trunks, a lot of the limbs all wrapped up in the white, which doesn't really give me the Christmas spirit in the white, but that's what they do, and I'm not picking on them. It looks great. People come from out of town, really, really like it, and I think it looks nice. Well, when I was a kid in Coralville, there was one string of lights. One! And it was on First Avenue. You turn on First Avenue. You're on the Coralville Strip, and you turn north on First Avenue. Okay, you're going to go north, up towards the Coralville Dam, up towards the interstate. And the first thing you have to do in about 100 yards, you have to go over Clear Creek. Well, there was a bridge there. There's still a bridge there, but it was a 2-lane. It was about a lane and a half bridge. It was built for Model A's, and it was pretty skinny. You kind of had to watch yourself if you met somebody there. On the south side of that bridge, running from one side of the street to the other, was one string of lights, and they were light bulbs that the Coralville street guys hung up there. There was a yellow one and a red one and a green one, red, yellow, green. That was the Coralville spirit back then in the 50s. One string of lights, which is sometimes one string more than a lot of towns put up. They considered too expensive to put up. I understand that. I get it. But that we didn't know the difference. Honestly, I remember driving down there to see them. Let's go see the lights. We bought our Christmas tree at Smitty's, which later became Randall's, and we would go down there, and it was the Christmas tree. We were talking about this the other night. Christmas tree back then was $1 a foot. And my dad was about a 6-foot guy, and he would go there, and he said he'd find a tree just a little bit taller than himself, he always thought. And that was our Christmas tree. So his $6, I suppose, was $6 or $7. That was the Christmas tree cost. So I was with a group of people the other night. I said, "What does the Christmas tree cost?" I don't know, because I won't allow them in the house. Being an old firefighter, I won't allow a real one in the house. kind of dumbhead, but that's the way it is. I don't want them in the house. They said, "Well, I don't know. If you go somewhere and get a good Christmas tree, you're talking the minimum." Here's what they said: minimum $25 for kind of a scrawny one. Excuse me. You can spend $50 easy, $40 to $50 to $60 to $75 on a Christmas tree. I don't doubt it, and I'm not picking on the Christmas tree guys. That's the deal. That's the deal. So more power to you. If you're going to get one, I wouldn't buy one today, maybe, or tomorrow, because it's going to be cold. It is cold, folks. But this weekend's supposed to be nice. Get down there and get yourself a Christmas tree. Just remember, $1 a foot was the old adage. You can go cut your own out in the country, I guess, but so what? It says here that 50% of the people 65 and older live only on Social Security, and I've known that for a long time. 50% of the people 65 and older live only on Social Security. Now, they had a big 3 or 4 page thing in the Des Moines Register on Sunday, interviewed people who are living on just Social Security, and some of them have adapted and doing, I wouldn't say quite well, but they're managing. How's that? So they're managing. Most of the ones who are managing, I mean, they do have, all of them had a rental payment or a house payment. Some of them still had a house payment, and it's okay if you still have a house payment. I have a house payment. My interest rate was so low many years ago, at 2.6. My accountant says, don't pay it off. I said, well, I can pay it off. Oh, don't. Okay, all right. So those people are still managing only Social Security. Some were having a tough time. They said, we know where all the food pantries are and all the free things. That's what you'd have to do. So the average Social Security check is about $1,650 a month. That's the average. So even if you were getting picked up $2,000 a month, I think that'd be a tough go to, especially in Johnson County, for gosh sakes. It's not cheap around here. It's just not. So good luck to you. I hope you, and let that, I don't mean to say let it be a lesson to you, but it's sort of what you need to do so that you do maybe a little bit better than that is you need to plan for it and plan for your retirement. Little savings, things like that. Did you know that only 40% of today's youth get a driver's license at age 16? 40%. When you were 14, what was your biggest goal in life? Your biggest goal in life was to not worry about 15, just go right to 16 so you could get a driver's license. Driver's license, that was D-Day for our generation. That meant freedom. You could come and go with your friends and activities and borrow the car. Maybe Dad let you get a car, which I did. I talked my folks into getting me a car. They bought me a car, $400 for a used car from the neighbors, which I had to pay back. Of course, I didn't have a problem with that. $25 a month, and had to get a part-time job to pay it back. That's life. Because I lived in Corville and I went to City High. It's a long ways out there. Still the same distance, but they didn't want to come out there after baseball practice and pick me up. It ruined their day because they had to go clear across town to pick me up. So it was pretty easy to get a car when you're a Corville kid, and you rode with friends all the time, So 40% of today's youth get a driver's license. The average age for those who don't get a driver's license is 28 when they finally get one. 28. The biggest issues affecting seniors, biggest issues. Number one, the rising cost of health care. Who knows how much it costs? Who knows where it's going to go? How much can it go? What's going to happen? We don't know. Physical aging bothers us for sure. Diseases, the different things we can get a hold of because nothing we did on our own. All of a sudden we have this affliction that's going to get us. And I can tell you some really tear-jerking stories, ladies and gentlemen, about seniors who were not feeling well and came up with this or that, and it's not good. Activity limitations, financial insecurity, loneliness, financial susceptible here to scams and things. These are all because we're seniors, for God's sake. Do you know the 3 stages of old age? 3 stages of old age. You don't have to write these down. The 3 stages of old age are young, the young old, the 3 ages of old. Young old, 65 to 74. I'm not even in that. 65 to 74, you are young old. 75 to 84, you are middle old. And if you're 85 and above, it's called old. So hang in there at any level you're at. If you're 85 and I say good for you, thumbs up. As long as you can take care of yourself and get around, good for you. Well, what part of your body ages most rapidly? What part of your body ages most rapidly? This is on an average. This isn't you abused alcohol pretty bad or really cigarettes really bad or things like that. On the average, what part of your body ages most rapidly? You're going to be kind of different on this. Your hands. This is a doctor's report. Your hands. So stick out your hands and look at the back of your hands and see what you see. And not long ago, I told my brother, I said, God, the back of I didn't even know this report then. I looked like my grandpa's hands. His hands were kind of, he's an old man. He died when he was 78. Here I am, 75, and I thought he was an old man when I was a kid, for God's sake. My hands look old. My palms of my hands look old. So your hands, they get wrinkles and nubs and arthritis because we do everything with our hands, all right? The most common cause of senior ailments. The most common cause of senior ailment. Now, this doesn't cover everybody or every issue, but it is what? High blood pressure. And high blood pressure is, sometimes it's our own doing. I mean, we're our own worst enemy because of whatever it is. A little overweight, you know, a little pants don't fit too good. I don't know that smoking causes high blood pressure. I don't know that, but lack of exercise and activities leads one to sit around and maybe put on a few pounds, and that's not good. So high blood pressure is not good at all, and that's the most common cause for senior ailment. And high blood pressure leads to other things, you know, like, oh, I'm not a doctor, but you know what it is. High blood pressure is not good. That's why they take your blood pressure every time you go to the doc office. That's the first thing they want to do. So when I mentioned at the top of the show that when I mentioned that it's hard being a senior, now you know why. We have a lot going on. Well, don't regret getting older, because it's a privilege that is denied to many. Last week was Pearl Harbor Day, and at our house it was my brother and I. We always knew when it was Pearl Harbor Day because my dad would sit us down every year and tell us all about it, what happened, and why he had to go to war, why so many guys had to go to war, and how many people got killed, and innocent people, and all the countries that got ruined and things that changed. So it was a pretty important part of our life. So I recognize Pearl Harbor. I didn't say celebrate, but recognize Pearl Harbor Day. Well, my mom grew up in Muscatine. She was in the first graduating class of the new high school, which is now, I think, a junior high, or the old high school for sure, on Cedar Street there. And two of her classmates, one was her classmate, one was a year ahead of her, 2 years ahead of her. And so if you're listening from Muscatine, I want to give you some homework. I'm kind of famous for I like to give seniors a little homework. I just suggested maybe you go to these museums around here. There are other museums. If you have never been to the old truck museum down at the Walcott Interchange and I-80, take a run down there, for God. That's free. You can go there and go next door at the world's largest truck stop at their little food court and eat lunch. Take you and a couple of buddies and go down there. That's fun. So if you're listening from Muscatine, I got a little homework for you. Two sailors from Muscatine were on the Arizona. They're still on the Arizona. And one of them was I think my mom's boyfriend at one time. And let me give you their names. Arthur Bursch, B-E-R-S-C-H. Arthur Bursch, and he lived at 314 Cedar Street. Now, 314 Cedar Street, that's almost right downtown. I think that the Muscatine Journal building is right on top of where they used to live. You can drive down there. Arthur Bursch lived at 314 Cedar. 314. And David Leedy, L-E-E-D-Y, lived at 109 East Fulliam. 109 East Fulliam, F-U-L-L-I-A-M. And that's also out off Cedar, not far from the high school. And those heroes went, as they would say, went down with the ship. And when my wife and I were out there in 1985, out there we went out to the Pearl Harbor, the white memorial they have out there, rode a little boat out there, and their names are on the wall out there. So if you want to take a little moment out of your day, you guys down there in Muscatine, take 314 Cedar, it's Arthur Bursch, and 109 East Fulliam. You don't have to stop, knock on the door, I don't mean that, but just say, that's where this young guy lived. He was on the Arizona, for God's sake. That's a neat deal. Good deal. All right. Sorry, my condolences to those families for sure. Well, they say that old age, Betty Davis, the old movie star, said old age is not for sissies. And then this one, it says, at age 20, I thought, this isn't me, by the way, at age 20, I thought I knew everything. But now that I'm in my mid-70s, I know that I know nothing. And that suits me just fine. Isn't that the truth? And so you think things are a little rough. Remember some things that I've suffered through. My dentist retired, my banker retired, my CPA retired, my doctor retired, my mechanic retired, my lawyer retired. And that's what happens as you get older. You got to replenish these men and women alike with some new blood. And they don't know your story. You have to sit down and go start over like you just moved to town. But that's what happens. And we've kind of we're outliving our coverage, the punt coverage. That's what's going on, and I'm happy to do it as long as we're in good shape. So that's the story. We've got one more senior talk to go this year, but take care of yourself. That's the number one thing. And I want you to know that we're always thinking about you. Take really good care of yourself. And the Christmas coming up, maybe take care of those around you too. So this is Rex Brandstatter on a really cold day but sunny day with a cold day ahead, saying thank you for listening to Senior Talk. We'll see you next time. So long.
Looking for a place with a fun, casual atmosphere? Check out the Solon American Legion, a downtown staple for decades and a gathering place for veterans of all ages from all